Hey folks, how's it going? This is Iron Seagull here. So I wasn't sure whether I wanted to make a whole video about these rumors, but it does pertain to The Sims 4 possibly ending next year, so I figured it was pretty important. It's really weird though, because they're allegedly planning on ending The Sims 4 as we know it by the end of next year, and they're replacing it with a base game that's more advanced, but it's not The Sims 5. And it's not The Sims 4 Remastered, as it's being called lately. So what the heck is it? It's apparently called Project X, and the best comparison I can think of is maybe it's like the Switch 2 editions of some games, where they're available on the Switch 1, but then Nintendo does a Switch 2 edition where it's kind of like DLC in a way, but it's like, yeah, it's like enhancing the game to run better on the Switch 2 and also provide some more content while they're at it. I'll leave this latest article from Sims Community in the video description below. We have posts from two different users that we're going to go over. The first one's from Gloaming the Pain. And what we have here is majority of what is being rumored is false. The single player part of Project Rene is being sold separately, releasing end of next year at this stage, and is being referred to in playtest as Project X. Aspects of The Sims 4 are carrying over, but it is a separate game. Originally, the single player part of Rene would be included in the full game of Project Rene, but they've decided to separate different experiences into separate games. This sounds like they're trying the whole Project Olympus thing all over again, where The Sims 4 was going to be separated into single player and multiplayer games. So this new game will have more flashy features like open neighborhoods, not open world, open neighborhoods, busier neighborhoods. I heard up to 3 times busier than The Sims 4, better graphics similar to what we saw of the early Rene content, not the MOBA playtests we've seen. The game, however, will be more simplistic than Sims 4 in other ways, as the single-player experience of Rene was never meant to compete with The Sims 4 and was a more simplified single-player offering in a game focusing on multiplayer, and to keep The Sims 4 as the flagship single-player game. However, EA are keen to retire The Sims 4, a phrase at this point I thought I would never see, simply because both QA and development costs have risen substantially in the last 24 months as the game has become complex to keep maintaining while developing new content. A main factor of this is many of the bug reports and broken save files are being caused due to mods and custom content, and they want to move on with the game that will have smarter tech that can identify mod-related issues easier, as now hundreds of hours of QA for The Sims 4 is being wasted on trying to replicate issues that are mod-related and not in the vanilla game. This means the new game will allow them to streamline, to get fixes in the game faster, and waste less time trying to replicate and fix bugs that don't exist in the vanilla game. So, to compensate for The Sims 4 coming to a close, certain fan favorite features of The Sims 4, as well as planned Sims 4 content, will be added to this new game instead. Yeah, I did see one rumor that Seasons was going to be one of those things. I have no idea what EA will call this game, but it's not a Sims 4 remaster, and it's not The Sims 5. They may decide to call it The Sims 5 for sake of ease, or maybe stick with the Sims 4 brand in hopes it attracts those players, but either way, it's not a proper sequel. It's the single player mode of Rene being sold as a standalone game, and will be nowhere near as complex as a proper sequel would be. I'm sure it'll be fun, but I'm sure many will identify where it falls short to The Sims 4, while acknowledging the tech advancements of a new engine and better hardware. That's all I really know, as I don't work at Fire Monkeys anymore, which actually does work on The Sims Freeplay, and only know info from people who work there who are very focused on Freeplay. They also add a few of their own opinions. It's not actual information, it's just what they think, but they feel that EA is never going to develop a standalone AAA Sims game ever again, and this new game probably won't be priced as a AAA game, and that this single player mode of Rene will likely be the new norm moving forward and being sold separate to the rest of Rene. so that they'll just have this platform to continue on with. I figured there'd be a good chance that this new base game would be free to play since they switched to a free to play model with The Sims 4 in its later years, and then they would just make expansion packs that are similar but not exactly the same as what they've done with The Sims 4 to make money that way. I'm surprised that idea wasn't even brought up. We also have this post from an anonymous user on Reddit. Okay, I can't stand by and watch everyone talking about The Sims 5 possibilities. I was part of a playtest for the next big Sims release, and you have no idea what's coming. It's so bad that I cannot handle being silent on it anymore. It's been eating me alive? The next big Sims game is going to be The Sims 4 with a more open world, backwards compatibility with saves and packs, and that's it. The UI is going to look very similar to Fortnite. This is what's coming. They're going to recycle The Sims 4 and make small changes and sell it to you again. That's all. I just need to speak out because it's killing me to stay silent. Throw away for obvious purposes. I've played since Sims 1 and I can't watch this go down in good consciousness. My goodness, that sounds rough to be under a non-disclosure agreement, but then keeping the secret is just so rough that it's eating you alive that you feel like you had to absolutely make this anonymous post. Wow. But they did also make an interesting reply here. So the question is, so I guess those next 2 expansion packs for Sims 4 that will be released in 2026 will be the final ones? Basically, yes, although I'm only aware of 1 more expansion pack, which theme I don't know. I just know it's being developed in Europe. Okay, yeah, that sounds legit. I figured the next expansion pack is probably being made by that team because they released businesses and hobbies in the spring. So that expansion pack could be out in the spring again, but wow, really? That's going to be the last one, allegedly. That is sooner than I thought. Like, they always say, oh yeah, The Sims 4, we're disrupting the sequel model, we're gonna keep this game going and going, and then they change their minds for some reason. I can see how it would be very easy to think that, okay, it's because of the EA buyout, right? Well, just like with the SpongeBob DLC, I think this was in motion before the EA buyout was going to be a thing that they were going to be doing for sure. I think it's going to still be a while before we really see how the buyout will affect The Sims. There could be some like last minute things that they do where it's like, okay, yeah, we'll change things, shift things around because of it. But yeah, I think this had nothing to do with the buyout either. And it's so weird how this is like looping around in a way, because when they first announced Project Rene, they said it was going to be the next generation of The Sims. So perfectly logical to think that it would be The Sims 5. And then it's like, oh no, actually it's going to be a spin-off now. But now it looks like, well, part of it is going to be not The Sims 5, but still a successor to The Sims 4 in a very strange way. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this is just a lot. This is a lot to take in. I feel like doing this weird base game but not true sequel thing that is quite similar to The Sims 4 but also not as good as The Sims 4 in some ways is going to have its own set of complications and issues. On top of that, it also kind of feels like an admission of defeat that, yes, The Sims 4 should have been open neighborhood from the start. Because I can somewhat understand them trying to scale back worlds with how The Sims 3 went, so then they can have it appeal to a wider customer base and make more money. But I think they went too far to the other extreme, because that is really annoying with The Sims 4, how even if you just want to visit your neighbor who lives literally next door to you, you still have to go through a loading screen. But with open neighborhoods, at least what I feel like it means is that you would be able to visit your neighbor without hitting a loading screen. But then if you want to visit another neighborhood or another world, then yes, you would still have to go through a loading screen because you would be loading up an entirely different map. It's also interesting that they seem to have heard the complaints about, with the newer worlds, them feeling less alive because they are bigger, like the neighborhoods all have more space to explore. But then since you only have a pretty low limit of how many Sims can spawn in, if I remember correctly, the default is 15 or 20, but then yeah, trying to distribute those many Sims across a much bigger space, then it's like, okay, yeah, not as much space is being filled up by Sims, so then it doesn't feel that great. Like, it works for more rural neighborhoods, but then when you're trying to make a city like Nordhaven or San Sequoia, then that issue really shines through. The first city you probably think of when it comes to The Sims 4, though, is San Myshuno. But that one actually is a lot better because the spaces are a lot smaller. They approached world design much differently in the earlier years of The Sims 4 compared to what they do now. But going back to open neighborhoods, I think they could pull off having an open neighborhood of 5 residential lots. But then what about all the business types we've been given over the years, like retail stores, restaurants, vet clinics, small businesses? If you put even more than just one of those in an open neighborhood with all the customers that are required to spawn and all the employees, and then you throw pets into the equation if you have cats and dogs, especially if you have a vet clinic, then I feel like things could get really out of hand fast in terms of performance. So I guess that could be just where, like, okay, it's not going to be exactly the same as The Sims 4, but I'm sure many people would be asking to have those sorts of things back. So it feels like something they would have to tackle eventually in one way or another. If they were to do an entirely new game, a true sequel, then maybe they could manage it better. But with how The Sims 4 works, I don't know. I feel like that is another, like, very big hurdle that they would have to overcome with something like this. Oh yeah, and residential rentals. How the heck are they going to do those in an open neighborhood if doing them in The Sims 4 as it is now can really help lead to save corruption? That's just like yet another whole can of worms. So maybe with this new base game, they wouldn't even do for rent and they would just try something else. I would not be surprised if in the end saves do not carry over. It just seems like it would be very hard to make compatible, and if it was, it'd be so easy for things to go wrong. Okay, sure, that hasn't stopped them before, but just trying to wrap my head around open neighborhood when I try to think of it more than just at surface level, then yeah, it's just like, okay, what are they gonna do? I don't know. That's pretty much all I wanted to say for now. It is really funny how, compared to other games I follow where it's like, okay, sometimes the leaks are completely accurate and sometimes they're not. But then with The Sims, they're pretty much always completely accurate. So yeah, prepare for this stuff to happen. It's going to be a weird 2026. I mean, 2025 is weird enough, but yeah, 2026, I'm pretty sure, is going to be worse. And I am not looking forward to it.